Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie and TV discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portrais, and I'm joined again by Mr. Sean Keenan.
Heidi hates the Meachums.
And, of course, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and now I have 3 iron fists.
Because what's better than 1? 2. What's better than 2? 3, I says.
That
3.
is incorrect.
What?
3 is not better than 1 when it comes to iron fists.
Oh,
No, it does not.
Or is it? That's how we tease you.
Still no.
On this episode, where we'll be discussing the entirety of Season 2 of Iron Fist, available on Netflix right now, because Sean said beforehand, he's like, guys, I cannot wait to, mainline this Iron Fist into my body. Can we please do this in one shot?
I did double down on this because the question was brought up, and I said, sure, let's do that. More so because I didn't want to have the thing happen where, we watch 5 episodes of this, watch half of the season, it's awful, and then we have to go back and watch 5 more episodes later. As bad as it was watching all 10 at one time, imagine having to go back and watch the other 5 later.
So, like, Bruce,
I'm glad we did it all at once.
If you get one eye done, if you need to get like both eyes, have some sort of surgery, do you want to do it on both, or do you do one by one?
Usually it's one by one. Depending on the procedure, it's usually one by one. There's some stuff you can get done bilaterally, but usually about a week apart.
Okay, so, all right, well, fair enough. I thought I'd try and swing and a miss. That's kind of how my life runs. No, you want to do them both at the same time. That way you end up like blind Matt Murdock. See?
Oh, yeah.
Tying it all into comic book stuff. See, that's what I do. I like to feel that. You know who I also like tying stuff into is the people that joined us over at the iTunes and dropping a 5-star review, a.k.a. Humdingham.
Humdinger.
And this one comes to us from ShuttleFan68. One away from my favorite name. Shuttle fan. It's entitled Funny and Informative. Listening to these guys is like hanging out with some friends and talking movies, except they know more than your friends. At first, I just listened to the movies that I really liked, but this show is so good and they have such chemistry that lately I've been watching movies that I never cared about just so I can listen to those episodes too. Bruce is hilarious. Sean offers great behind-the-scenes insight on the movie-making process and industry, and Adam keeps it all moving and mostly on track. I found it through Heroes and Villains show, which is also awesome. Give them a listen. You'll laugh and learn. P.S. Adam, if you had timestamps on the film file, I'd listen to that too. It's fair enough. But we'd like to thank you, ShuttleFan68, and all the other people that have dropped over the iTunes. Give us a 5-star review, a.k.a. Humdinger.
Humdinger.
And we really appreciate that from you guys. We've also got a little bit of other housekeeping here. First of all, we want to thank everybody that came out to Dragon Con and all the different panels. I think I did like a total of 6 panels. And yet still paid for my own ticket. We'll see if we can fix that for next year.
Hey, I did 2 panels, but I gorillaed one of your panels, Adam.
Hey, man, that's as long as anybody is around. And let me tell you, there's no one who I am more at ease sitting on stage with than Bruce Leslie, because I know that that's a good pilot. That's a good co-pilot to have along with you for that journey. I'll tell you that one much right now. So we do have a couple of emails here, so let's go ahead. What do you say we open up the old H&P mailbag? It's been a while.
Bale's here.
And I'll actually start off on this one. It's a quick one here from Sam. I've never listened to your podcast before, and I had never listened to your podcast before. I just rewatched Ang Lee's Hulk for the first time since 2003, and I was fascinated by how bizarre it was. I was bored at work and searched iTunes for podcasts about the film and came across your show. Thanks, Sam. Sam, thank you for that email, man. And I love hearing little stories like that where you're just looking for something, you're not looking for anything specific, and you come across us, and hopefully you kind of dig what we're doing here. Who wants to go next?
Bruce. I'll go next.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
Okay. I've got an email from Lee that says, "Hey, HMPers, I just listened to your review of Superman Returns, and it brought up some thoughts I wanted to share with you guys. I'm 51 years old and saw Superman on the big screen when I was 11. I'm sure I dragged my parents back to the theater to see it again, which was a big deal back then. For many guys my age, Star Wars was a life-changing event, but for me it was Superman. To this day, when I hear the name Superman, I immediately think of Christopher Reeve. I've seen the movie countless times, but whenever I see the scene when Lois is hanging from the helicopter and Clark comes out of the building, I get a huge smile on my face because I know what's coming and I'm 11 years old again. In 2006, I was very much looking forward to Superman Returns. My wife was able to score 2 tickets at our local IMAX theater on opening day, and we got the perfect seats. As the movie started and the awesome John Williams theme started, I wondered if there was another kid in the theater that was going to have the same experience that I did when I was 11. Was Brandon Ruth going to be this kid's Superman in 40 years? After the movie ended, my first thought was, boy, I hope not. I had the same thought after watching Man of Steel 7 years later. I really felt bad that this generation is being deprived of something that was so special to me. I agree with you that the casting was just terrible. I thought that Kevin Spacey would be a terrific Luthor, but he was so cold and cruel where Gene Hackman's Luthor humor seemed to make him likable. Everyone else was just too young. How can Kate Bosworth have a 9-year-old kid? Superman was supposed to be gone for years, and he looked 22 years old. For all the work Ruth did to try to copy Christopher Reeve's Superman, he somehow missed the joy of being Superman. He never smiles. Not when a whole stadium is cheering for him. Not even at the end when he flies off screen while orbiting the Earth. How do you miss that? To be fair, it wasn't all bad. The CGI might not hold up as well as I remember, but I still really like the scene where Superman saves the space shuttle and airplane. I also like the fake out when the boat is sinking and you think the kid is going to save them, but Superman shows up and pulls the ship out of the water. It was also nice that they gave a role to Jack Larson, who played Jimmy Olsen in the 1950 show. Thanks for listening to an old man ramble on, and thank you for your podcast. I look forward to it each week. Lee. P.S. My middle name is Jason, so screw you guys. He doesn't like this hating on the Jason Todd, I guess.
No, because Lois's kid was named Jason. And then we took a big giant poop on Jason.
Sorry about that, Lee. But not only was Jack Larson in the movie, but Noelle, what's her name? Noelle Neal or something like that. She played the old lady that Lex Luthor married before she died to inherit the mansion.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, that's great.
I'm a big, in a weird way, like I feel like I keep track of all the Lois Lanes way more than a normal person would.
Well, to answer Lee, yes, there is something missing when Superman isn't great. But luckily, kids who are growing up now have far more superheroes to admire. I mean,
they've got Iron Man, quite frankly.
Yeah, you got that. And Chris Evans. I mean, Chris Evans is just incredible as Captain America.
Yeah.
And this may be a shocker to you, but my kids really like Star-Lord.
That's not a surprise in any way.
No. At least I didn't go, Daddy, I want to be exactly like Groot when I grow up. Your kid's not exactly shooting for the stars when they just want I am Groot in their life. And like, I really wish you'd have more.
But I'll tell you what, when me and my sons are watching Guardians 2, the whole Drax turd joke gets us just rolling in the floor every time. We have to pause it and collect ourselves before we go on with the movie.
So, I mean, yes, having Superman not be great right now is, there is something missing from that. But kids have so much more that they can look up to and admire and just have something that's so very, very cool. I can't imagine what it must be like because, growing up, all we had was Superman. We didn't have anything else.
I posit it's worse for them, in my opinion. Like sure, they live in like the golden era of the comic book movie to where, you couldn't get much better. But at the same time, it's something that they've kind of always known. So I could be wrong, and Bruce, you tell me if you think otherwise. I feel like you almost may be able to take it for granted at the same time too, because they didn't have those lean years,
Oh, definitely. Some folks are going to take it.
Yeah.
Some kids are going to take it for granted, but it's going to be like Star Wars was, where because this isn't going to sustain itself. The superheroes aren't going to be around for another 30 years, where we just keep knocking out superhero movies at the rate that they're doing. And so there's a glut, and then it goes away, and then it'll come back, and then they'll be like, oh man, I remember when superheroes were everywhere, and it'll be great.
I think it'll be kind of like Westerns. Like we're in this whole.
There you go.
Like the whole stretch between Robert Ford, was that his name? Robert Ford, all the way through to like Sam Peckinpah, and then it kind of died off.
John
and then
Ford.
We had that little. What's that?
John Ford.
I'm sorry, John Ford. Robert Ford was.
That's the guy who killed.
That's the guy who shot Jesse James.
Yeah, that's still Western though. That's what
it's Western. It's
like
Western. Shut up. It's Western.
And then after the Peckinpah thing, they really kind of died down. Then there was this pop resurgence with like Young Guns and Tombstone and some of those that were like a more like the pop music equivalent of a Western. Then you got a real good throwback with The Unforgiven, and now they've pretty much all disappeared with the rare something like the remake of True Grit that shows up. But there's always going to be a Western movie out there for somebody who's looking for it. And I think superhero movies are going to be like that.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with
you. But
you.
I also want to just go back to something Lee said. I too, remember I'm a little bit younger than Lee, but not that much younger. And I too remember when, Superman was as big of a deal as Star Wars in the day. Now, Star Wars is kind of held up differently. But for the kid like me that really wound up being way more into superheroes than probably anything else in the world, Superman was definitely on equal footing with Star Wars for me as a kid.
Very good. All right, Keenan, what do you got?
They both had cups at Burger King.
They did. Sean, you got an email there for us?
I do, and it says, for Sean.
Oh.
It starts, hey guys, first I wanted to let you all know that the person who wrote you when impartial psychiatric hospitalization is back at work, and I'm still listening almost every week. This week, it took me a few days to track down a copy of Split, and I hadn't watched it when it came out because of the controversy Adam brought up in the show. Spoilers ahoy for the movie, so fast forward until you hear Adam singing and playing guitar on the Comic Book Connection song. And by the way, we should start totally calling it Spoilers Ahoy.
I like it.
We should totally take that if they'll let us.
Got it.
I want to make it clear I really loved Unbreakable, maybe as much as you, Sean. You clearly have great taste. Second, a big thank you to Bruce for going through which disorders are mischaracterized as DID and discussing some of the concepts and medical problems with the movie. Once the movie went into optical nerves regenerating, my BS detector went off and cemented my feeling this movie had to be set in a supernatural reality. Okay, that's a lie. What set it off was that a guy who had a maintenance gig at the zoo can afford that psychiatrist whenever he wants.
Yes, that is very true.
Or at all. If you've ever had to go to a psychiatrist, I assure you it's near impossible to find one that will see you without more than 2 weeks' notice, and they rarely take insurance. Third, I'm kind of mad, a little bit. I get that there are topics that don't lend themselves well to the family show you all have, but I was disappointed you glossed over the Casey character's reasons for being so good at figuring out how not to be hurt, that she's having to cope with an abusive uncle who has sole custody of her since she was 3. Was I the only one rooting for Casey to shoot her first monster at age 3? I was also very angry with the movie for not showing us whether or not she would speak to the police about her uncle to get away from him. But also, the theory you presented that she will turn into another villain simply because she has obvious mental problems from decades of being in the care of her abuser hurt a lot to hear. I'm spitballing and hoping hard here, but I don't think that from the years of podcasts I've heard, any of you or people close to you have experienced the particular kind of abuse that Casey characters endured. As someone who has experienced that kind of abuse, I promise we don't all turn into monsters. There are a lot of us walking. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Right here, I just want to say I'm sorry. I just want to say I'm sorry for that.
Yeah, me too.
I've already talked to the person, but I'll triple it up. Yes.
Yeah, very good.
It's far too wrong for people. It's far too rare that people just straight up with no, I'm sorry I made you feel that way, or I'm sorry. No, I'm just straight up saying I'm sorry. I was wrong. I wish I hadn't said that.
Well,
I hope I don't do something like that again.
I think I can understand. I mean, I'm not giving an excuse for this, but I think you can kind of. I think I understand where you're coming from, and maybe it just wasn't explained as well as it could have been. I think.
Yeah, I'm still just going to stick with it.
Yeah, we also muffed that really good. Yeah, I mean, that's an excellent point.
We didn't do it as well.
I'm just going to say I'm sorry.
Yeah, we screwed it pretty bad there. Sorry about that. There are a lot of us walking around trying to lead our own lives, though sometimes we limp along on mental skeletons where the bones couldn't be reset correctly from such bad breaks. We do have jobs and families for the most part. It's just harder to do everything. I mean, I might be crazy, but at least I'm not Dr. Dan Do. Or am I?
Oh, that would be wow. What you want to talk about a Shyamalan twist?
Sorry, I thought you were done. I apologize.
No. The unbreakable character is the nice, big, healthy, white everyman who saves us all. Do we have to have him fight all the mentally and physically disabled people of the world? It's kind of messed up, even if I'm supposed to somehow get superpowers out of this deal. That's a funny line.
I see Bruce Willis going over just chopping down people with mental disabilities. It's so bad.
And any day now would be great. Teleportation is preferred. I'll even become blue and get a tail if I can bamf anywhere. Last, and this is more a nitpick than anything, what was the psychiatrist supposed to do? She had no real proof of anything that Kevin had done anything wrong, just a gut feeling that things weren't okay from all the emails. She couldn't call the police on him for having the dentist personality step forward. She went to see him on her way to get a better assessment of what was going on. Again, I can't imagine a single doctor who would ever do this because that's a house call. Yeah. And come on, it's 2016 when this came out.
I ain't going to nobody's house on my free time. I'll tell you that right now.
She was absolutely horrified when she saw the blonde girl. She really didn't know what Kevin had done and had no real recourse except give Shyamalan an excuse for a cameo. That's awesome.
Not untrue.
Any case, Sean, I hope you don't hate this week's cartoon too much for your sake. I appreciate you putting them because it's fun to hear your reactions. After what you said, I decided not to see Teen Titans because it didn't sound like my jam either, and I love the original Powerpuff Girls. And Adam, you're welcome for insisting Sean read this since it's a ridiculously long email. Best to you three, and thanks for all you do, even if I disagree when you're wrong. Annie.
Was it Annie? Was that the emailer's name? Anne? Well, thank you very much for sending the email, Ann. Thank you for listening. And, if you've got a little extra time, go check out my Rorschach episode of Heroes and Villains. I do a little soul bearing there, too. Maybe you'll enjoy it. Have fun with that.
And I must freely admit I have not experienced anything even remotely close to that sort of abuse.
I've worked in public, so that's like a quarter of that.
Hilarious, Adam.
I'm kidding.
Awesome.
Listen.
Way to read the room.
Listen, I feel I can say these things because I know it's an anonymous person, but I know we've had plenty of discussions, so it's all good.
Okay.
All right. So with that, let's close up the old HMP mailbag. What do you say?
Bale's here.
And one more quick little note before we jump into our review here. I do want to say thank you because we were at Dragon Con, so we didn't get to say it there. But let's say it right now. Thank you to everybody that supported us this month over at patreon.com/HMP. Longtime supporter. He had to go off for a little bit, but he actually had me press the button for his coming back to the fold here. Mr. Jim Beverly is back as an executive producer level over here.
Oh, wow. That's great.
So Jim, so in the executive producer level, Jim, Matt, Alex, Peter, Tim, Robert, and RocketFace. Thank you guys so much for that. And a big, giant thank you to Sirish for coming in at the $40 level this month. Sirish, now that I'm kind of back from Dragon Con and everything, we're going to get some bundles up stuff for you here, buddy. So never you worry, my friend.
Get that dirty whale something.
Get him. All right, so let's do it, gentlemen. We've got a good amount of episodes here to discuss. Let's go ahead and listen to the trailer for Iron Fist Season 2.
You have not been home in days. You barely sleep when you are home. How many times a night you light that fist up? see how much you're pushing yourself.
Just trying to keep the peace. What am I supposed to do? I didn't ask for the Iron Fist.
I'm fighting for what I believe in, no matter the cost. What are you fighting for?
Trying to do what's right.
I didn't expect to see you here, brother. We have family matters to discuss.
You and Davos, you were trained together.
I fought my brother. There is no changing what happened.
You feel that you can just walk through this world as if it belongs to you. The Iron Fist is not a weapon to be held, it is to be used. Now you'll give me what's mine, brother. You will suffer.
The Iron Fist, Davos wanted it.
We can stop him, but I need help.
You're not alone, but we can't save everyone.
I can't just sit here and do nothing.
I have become the thing you never had the strength to be.
History doesn't decide what happens next. We do.
We should do this more often. Dinner out, a movie. Date night.
Alrighty, that was the trailer for Iron Fist Season 2. We've talked about Iron Fist many a time on this program for the other episodes, but let's see what he's going to do this week. Bruce, what do you got?
Well, Typhoid Mary first appeared in Daredevil number 254 all the way back in May 1988. And she was created by Ann Nocenti and John Romita Jr. And Typhoid Mary is an enemy and former lover of Daredevil with low-level psionic powers that include telekinesis and pyrokinesis. She's been a professional criminal employed by organized crime syndicates as an assassin in the past, and it also turns out she's depicted as gravely mentally ill, suffering from dissociative identity disorder. According to the lore in the comics, and nothing is more medically accurate than 1980s comic books, but her condition was caused when Matt Murdock had tracked a villain down to a brothel where Mary worked. Matt attacked the man, but somehow, like a stray punch or something, hit Mary and knocked her out of the window. And it was at that moment that she somehow became Typhoid Mary and vowed no man would ever hurt her again. Like I said, she suffers from dissociative identity disorder, and Mary Walker has at least 3 alternate personalities in addition to her seemingly healthy one. Now, her Mary personality is a timid, quiet pacifist. Her Typhoid personality is an adventurous, lustful, and violent lady. And then her Bloody Mary persona is brutal, sadistic, and misandrous. Now, aside from the highly developed martial arts skills that she had, she also has these telekinetic powers that I mentioned, and probably more dangerously, the pyrokinesis that I briefly mentioned. And if you're not familiar, pyrokinesis is the ability to set people or objects on fire, but hers only works on things in her immediate vicinity. Now, in her first appearance, she met Matt Murdock, and she was hired as an assassin by the Kingpin. She then battled Daredevil while beginning a romance with Murdock. And it sounds to me very suspiciously like because Elektra was dead, Marvel needed to replace her. But maybe I'm wrong. She became a favorite pawn of the Kingpin. Typhoid would frequently battle and have a love-hate relationship with Daredevil before disappearing. Through hypnosis, the abnormal and psychotic personalities were suppressed from Walker's consciousness, and she began to lead a normal life again, becoming an actress on a soap opera. And I guess an actress on a soap opera is better than the kind of actress that Karen Page became when it comes to lovers of Matt Murdock. But anyway, she was sent by Dr. Doom to learn the secrets of Chimelian technology from Power Pack during the Acts of Vengeance storyline. And I know that snippet isn't terribly interesting, but when I get a chance to give Marty Merrick a Power Pack reference, I take it. Now, at one point, Mary was confined to a mental institution where each personality hired a mercenary. Mary hired Deadpool to kill her. Typhoid hired Deadpool to break her out. And Bloody Mary hired the Vamp to break her out so that she could resume her killing spree. So Deadpool defeated the Vamp, but he refused to kill Mary, and he allowed the Typhoid personality to become dominant. She would go on later to become Mutant Zero for a bit before resuming her duties as Typhoid Mary. Now, at one point, Mary answers Daredevil's call for superheroes to join the hand in providing martial law for an ever-increasing area of New York City in the Shadowlands storyline, which was, I would say, less than beloved. And I don't know that I've heard much of her lately. Now, Davos, the Steel Serpent, he's a character that first showed up in the Deadly Hands of Kung Fu way back in 1975. And the Steel Serpent is a native of Kunlun named Davos, and he's the son of Li Kung the Thunderer. He's a gifted student of martial arts, and Davos was one of the final two candidates for the right to challenge for the power of the Iron Fist, but was defeated in single combat by Wendell Rand, adopted son of Kunlun's ruler, Lord Tuan. Now, it's important to take note here, we're talking about Wendell Rand and not Danny Rand. Davos accused Tuan of unfairly favoring his adopted son and left the city without permission to confront the dragon Xiao Lao. He failed to defeat the dragon. He returned to Kunlun in disgrace, and he was exiled to Earth. Wendell Rand left Kunlun the same day without having confronted the dragon, and 20 years later, Wendell's son Danny Rand succeeded in winning the Iron Fist power, and soon afterwards also returned to Earth. Davos tracked Iron Fist to New York and stole his power, possessing it until it consumed him, and Iron Fist absorbed it back into himself. And that's a pretty straightforward Bronze Age storyline right there. But of course, that's not where it stops. The Steel Serpent's spirit was cast into a realm accessible from the Anomaly Gem. Davos was restored to life on a couple of occasions by the Crane Mother, who promised to locate and destroy the renegade Iron Fist, Orson Randall, in return. Now, he stole Danny's Iron Fist power again and declared himself dictator of Kunlun. And, it kind of follows the same cycle. If Steel Serpent shows up, he's going to steal Danny's power, and Danny's going to get it back, and he's going to run away for another day, He's proved capable of draining the power of the Iron Fist from its wielder by pressing his own serpentine tattoo against the wielder's dragon tattoo. And on at least one occasion, he retained some fragment of Xiao Lao's power after the previous holder of the Iron Fist had reclaimed his power. At his full power, he's even been able to battle people as powerful as Spider-Man. His reflexes and skills seem to be on par with the Wall Crawler, which is pretty amazing. But he always gets defeated. He always gets sent back to the spirit realm, and he continues to return and steal Iron Fist power like some kind of tired TV show that goes on to season 2 when nobody was all that excited for season 1.
Ooh, showing his hand early over here. So, Sean, I think of all of us here, you were probably the least down on season 1. And from what I'd heard, you looked at the internet, they were like, season 2, still not great, but from what everyone said in kind of previews before the episodes dropped, was like, hey, an improvement over season 2, but still not so hot. Or over season 1, rather, excuse me.
Sean, you like season 1 better than we did?
No.
Okay. I'm saying he disliked it the most. So
you said he was down on it. I couldn't quite understand what you said. Down on it, not as much as you and I. So I didn't know what down on it, not as much meant. I wasn't sure.
Yes, that's a negative connotation.
No, I really, really disliked season 1.
I did too.
And I think I figured it out while hating season 2 while watching it. I think I figured out the reason why I don't like this show very much.
Okay.
It's because, when I do not believe for a second that Danny Rand is the biggest bad A in all of Chinatown. I just don't. I don't think that there's a bit of menace that is missing from him, and you have to have that in order to be the Iron Fist, in my opinion. When you watch something like an old Bruce Lee movie, Bruce Lee has a bit of menace to him, because he needs it, because he was 5'2".
He's a slight fellow.
Yeah, so you have to be a bit scary, and there is nothing at all scary about Danny Rand in this. Finn Jones is fine. He's okay as an actor, but he was woefully miscast in this.
And talking about season 1, I think something that I said is he's more, if we're going to go after a supernatural character with iron in the name, I think he's more of an Iron Druid than Iron Fist, because Iron Druid is like this guy that lives in Arizona and goes hiking with his dog on the weekend and mixes herbs to give him some powers and stuff. And I can really see Finn Jones pulling that sort of thing off more.
Yes,
than
because it feels like what he probably does in his real life.
Yeah.
And as far as the Colleen Wing character, Jessica Henwick is a terrific martial artist. She's very, very good with the martial arts. But when it comes to any other type of acting, it is so cardboard, it is so bland that I just don't care about her at all as a character. I don't like her.
Really?
I cannot stand her as a character because she's so nothing.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
There is nothing to that character at all, in my opinion, at least the acting performance. And also let's be honest, the writing for this has been fairly unremarkable as well. One of the things that made Daredevil season 1 and season 2 so great, and, Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, what made all of these things great is that the writing was first. Like, the writing was incredible. And then on top of that, you have these people who were perfectly cast in the roles. Now you have something where the writing is not nearly as spot on, and on top of that, you also have an actor who doesn't fit in the role. And so you already have 2 strikes against you before you even start your season. And I don't care who the director is. You're not going to get the performance that you need to get when you don't have the right actor in the role.
And I don't remember now. I mean, this is a year and a half ago. But when we did part 2 of Iron Fist, I wasn't on the show. I don't know if I was like out of town or what I had going on. But you guys did the second half of Iron Fist season 1 without me. So I never had to rate season 1. And I'm going to go ahead and make a confession. I never finished watching that season 1 either. It was that unenjoyable to me.
Man, it really, and I just always expected Marvel to not be so tone deaf when it comes to their own stuff. I thought that they course corrected a lot of things. Like when you look at what happened with Iron Man 2, Marvel basically went, you know what, you're right. We did screw that up. Let's not do it like that again. And they haven't since then. They haven't. I mean, whether or not you like, every Marvel movie after Iron Man 2, you have to admit that at least they are course correcting what they thought they got wrong the first time. Whereas with this, it's like they thought what they did season 1 was perfect. And not only
I don't know. I think they tried to do something a little different than season 1 here. They just didn't do any better at it.
Well, I mean, you're right, but not only are they making the same mistakes that they made from season 1, for season 2, they do the thing that every single property does when it comes to the second movie or the second season of something. Let's have the guy lose his power. And I'm so tired of it.
They also did something like they did things that didn't feel original.
No.
And what's bugging me is I can't quite think of what I want to compare it to. But they made they painted Danny Rand's relationship to the Iron Fist power as an addiction. And I feel like there's been some other superhero properties that have portrayed, using the power almost as an addiction. And I can't think of what it is now. And it's bugging me because I'd love to be able to throw that like straight up there 1-to-1.
Well, I can tell you that the Hulk in Avengers, the first Avengers, is there. He's treated like an addict, like a former addict, where he's not like the way that he's dealing with the power is like someone who is struggling with addiction.
And I mean, they have that parallel story with Ward and Narcotics Anonymous going on there. I mean, they're as heavy handed as, chasing the dragon metaphor as they can be with that. But that is one thing that's definitely not original. And there's something else that's really, hopefully I'll think of it by the end. And when I say it, you'll go, yeah, you know what? That's right on the nose. But there's like something else where the power being used has been like an addiction. Maybe even like as simple as Nuke from the first season of Jessica Jones, you know? Mm-hmm. But then another thing is, to me, this Davos storyline is pretty much, and if you're going to copy something, you might as well copy something that's darn successful, but it's pretty much the Killmonger Black Panther storyline.
Yeah.
I mean, in so many respects, he feels like he didn't get his birthright, and he goes and steals it and then wants to change things so nobody else can ever have it again, and then he has to fight for it without his powers. You know, it's all the same beats, but it's nowhere near as good as Black Panther.
I was going to say,
nobody's going to argue with me that this is better than Black Panther, are they?
I was going to say that the big difference between Killmonger and Davos is you're not rooting for Killmonger to win and destroy Black Panther, whereas when you're watching this season 2 of Iron Fist, I am actively rooting for Davos to win.
You know, and I'm watching this and I'm seeing so many outs. Like, okay, so I figured out what they're going to do. They're going to get rid of Finn Jones. Like, they're not necessarily going to get rid of Iron Fist, but I saw so many ways to get rid of Finn Jones. And then it looks like by the end of this, they're going to double down. And that's a pun that will make more sense when we get to it. But they're actually doubling down on Finn Jones, it looks like.
Boy.
And totally turning him into some other character that I don't know what he is, but he's not Iron Fist.
I don't know who that character is either. And I know that you want to start talking about that.
We got a ways to go.
The answer's Spawn. It looks like he's becoming Spawn. I will tell you that I think it's a mistake to try to go beat by beat for this thing because it's too much.
Because it's just so repetitive also. One of the things that we're constantly complaining about is that the Netflix series are too long, and they're too long by, like 7 episodes.
We get 3 episodes less this time, but it still feels about the same, right?
I've got some big complaints about what wasn't in the show. So I think we can talk about what wasn't in it, because that's not like, it doesn't matter if it's at the beginning or the end, you talk about that. But zero commentary on what went down in Luke Cage. And that was a big deal, because Danny showed up in Luke Cage, and Danny showed up still having the power. However you're putting the timeline together, the Luke Cage season 2 happened before this season.
Right.
There's no way that this season happened before that. You follow me?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So how does Danny not have any kind of comment on what went down with Luke? Like, I was really excited that maybe this was going to be like a Heroes for Hire show under disguise, because this whole season was going to be about Danny trying to get Luke to wake up and quit doing what he's doing, and that would have been a pretty cool show. But that wasn't
it would
here.
Probably save the show to have somebody like Mike Coulter on it too.
And I can understand why Luke Cage didn't address it, but they really needed to address Thanos snapping his fingers by the end of this season.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it's just because they talked about Sokovia. They've made it far too clear that this is in that universe. We understand this is happening before Thanos snapped his fingers, but it can only be happening so far before, because even at the end of the season, they go months later and show us something that happened. So exactly how much time, there's not that much time between Sokovia and Thanos snapping his fingers, so this needs to fit in there a little bit better. But they've totally, I think, given up. I'm just going to say this. I think that Feige's branch, the movie branch, has totally given up on Loeb's branch.
Yeah. And I'm wondering why that is.
Well, because everybody, you know how this is, Sean. Everybody's got their own, thing, and they're like, our stuff is the stuff that's the best stuff. Your stuff, maybe not so much. And of course, you're going to have a grudge as a TV show.
The first 2 seasons of Daredevil were really good. The first season of Jessica Jones was really good, and they were keeping that tight MCU. And they're like, this is what's happening on the street while the Avengers is going on up in the air. They really held that tight for about 2 years. And then they just kind of like quit caring. I mean, I think a big part of it is Disney distancing themselves from Netflix. Like, they're just ticking off the days on the calendar till that agreement with Netflix is over.
Well, it also could have been Drew Goddard also leaving as well, as kind of the guy was helming that ship.
Who's leaving?
Well, Drew Goddard, started out with Daredevil and stuff, and then kind of, left the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think they're leaving this for dead now.
And I mean, ending this season where it ended, knowing where the Netflix Disney relationship stands, I've given up any hope of ever getting that Power Man and Iron Fist season that I wanted. That sadly, the only time that this character works is when he's in certain situations with Luke Cage. And that at those times, I think Adam has agreed with me. I don't know about you, Sean, but he can really work in those brief moments.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's good in that. And I really would have liked to seen a blood sport origin with him as well.
Yeah, they even mentioned Kumite rules at one point, which Kumite is the tournament in blood sports. That would have been cool, but we just didn't quite get there. Also, they really teased the heck out of Daughters of the Dragon. You know, Daughters of the Dragon is the team-ups comic that was out for a while where Misty Knight and Colleen Wing were working together as detectives. And, I mean, they teased the heck out of Daughters of the Dragon, and I think people would be way more excited about Daughters of the Dragon than another season of Iron Fist. But I don't understand, like, why they feel the need, especially in the Netflix universe. They really feel the need to tease the heck out of something before it happens, you know?
Yeah.
Like, we still haven't seen Iron Fist in anything even close to a costume.
Well, we get a little bit of the bandana.
Yeah, we get a little bit of it.
We get a mask in flashback, but you know what I mean? Like, even Daredevil made us wait a whole season 1, but at least in the final episode, we got to see Daredevil in his costume. Punisher made us wait a whole season, but we finally got him with the skull on his vest again by the end of the Punisher. Here we're 2 seasons in, and we've never gotten that, like, Iron Fist moment.
We don't even really have, like, an excuse for him to wear it. Like, I mean, because honestly, I think that's what they need is just an excuse for him to wear it.
And they've got the easiest one in the world. Danny Rand is like a celebrity, you know, like he's a known person. So it'd be easy enough for one to hide his face. I mean, the same reason Matt Murdock was hiding his face. Even give Danny a little face mask like Matt Murdock used it. You know, how he would just wrap like a scarf around his head. Give me anything, man. They've given us nothing.
That. He's literally seen that, like, you know, in the Defenders and everything. So he could go like, oh, well, see, yeah, that's a good idea. And that yellow thing I was wearing back in Colleen, that sounds like a really good. Why am I not doing that right now?
And you were telling me you don't like Colleen Wing's character very much here, Sean?
I don't. I think that the actress who plays her is playing her so blandly and so dry.
Yeah, but maybe she is, but
it's this weird thing where, you know, when she's fighting, like she does all of that correctly. Like her fighting is great, and even her facial expressions when it's happening, when she's fighting, are all terrific. But when she has actual dialogue, when she has when she has to actually emote, it's all the same.
Now, I will say that in my opinion, season 2 was really about Colleen. Season 2 was not so much about Danny.
This is not Danny's season at all, really.
I mean, it really feels like it's set up to give us. I mean, they even give Colleen a superpower. They took forever to give Misty her robot arm, so I'm glad she finally gets to use it a little bit. But you know, like how long they drugged their feet, even giving Misty the robot arm. They drag their feet so long on these Netflix shows, and they're dragging their feet so long for Daughters of the Dragon. But I think we're ready for like the little epilogue or the postscript should have been Daughters of the Dragon getting set up. Because I think people would be into that. I think Misty's a cool character. She's got her robot arm now that Colleen has a glowing sword. I mean, what's cooler than a robot arm lady and a glowing sword lady beating up bad guys?
Well, I think that you have to have Power Man and Iron Fist before that happens, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, but in my opinion, that's what this season should have been.
Yes, mine too.
Or at least half of it be pointed you towards that direction. You know?
Yeah. Man. You know, you have to at least, even if you can't get Mike Coulter on set, you got to have Danny talking about it and thinking about it and trying to get to him, trying to reach him. But I mean, they brought Finn Jones into Luke Cage season 2. I'm sure they could have got Coulter in for an episode or 2 just to resolve that. What do you think about Tom Pelphrey, the guy that plays Ward Meacham, Sean? Because I kind of like him, but I feel like he's in a different show than everybody else.
Well, that's my problem with it, is that, you know, I don't like the Meachams on this show at all. I think that if you want to have that show, you can go ahead and make that show, but it's not on this one. And I like the Ward Meacham character. I like where he's gone. I do like that they did not just brush off that he tried to have Iron Fist killed twice in the first season, and now they're good friends. Like they don't like that part. That part was okay. But cannot for the life of me understand why they're holding on to all of these characters, other than because they haven't been they aren't able to use anyone else now that Disney is going away from this stuff.
Yeah. And I just don't know where, if you had limited funds, like everyone has a finite number of days in their life. I don't know why anyone would think that you'd need to spend a single one of those days making season 2 of Iron Fist unless you're going to do something unexpected with it.
Right. Why go number? It really does feel like they're painting by numbers. The only thing that really surprised me at all is the very end of this season.
And you know what? If they had made this season what they're teasing with the very end, I would have been up for it. It might have been awful, but at least they're trying. You know?
At least you're doing something different.
And I mean, you could take the same cast, the same budget, the same shooting schedule, and give us at least something that's trying to do something interesting. But they're, you know what, giving us yet another addiction parable. You know what I mean? That's, like I said, not original by any means. And then throwing in a rehash of the Killmonger storyline from Black Panther. I don't know. It's like the ending makes me think, wow, there might have been something crazy. Like it might not have been good, but there could have been something interesting if that ending had happened around episode 3 and we just took it from there.
Yeah. And also I want to use something that you said a very long time ago, Bruce, which is that, you know, somewhere there's a kid who really loves Rhino.
Yeah.
Somewhere there's a kid who really loves Iron Fist. He thinks Iron Fist is the coolest one of all of the superheroes. I feel bad for that kid because that kid is now 3 series in, because if you count Defenders, that kid is now 3 series in, and the character that he likes is not being represented on screen at all. There's nothing cool about this character.
And the sad thing is, when written correctly, when written with a little bit of a humorous edge to him, there is no character in all of comics as fun as Danny Rand. You know, the David Walker Sanford Green run on Power Man and Iron Fist is probably the best example out there of this. But when Danny Rand is done right, as like the goofy little guy running around with this gigantic, big, tough Luke Cage, but then when stuff gets scary, he's the one everybody's afraid of, the little skinny guy, not the gigantic muscular guy, because he's the Iron Fist, you know?
Right.
And I miss that. There's so much fun to be had with this character. I don't like the real serious, hardcore kung fu stories. I like the ones with a touch of laughter and fun that take place in Harlem with Luke Cage, where it's like he's this fish out of water. You know, I like those. And when done right, it's one of the best. And I'm with you, man. I feel sorry for that kid who has waited all this time, or he's probably like 30 now, but he's waited, you know, he's been teased with, this guy might be Iron Fist, that guy might be Iron Fist, and he finally gets it, and it's this.
Right. And which leads me to ask the biggest question that I thought of while watching this season, which is there someone you can think of who is out there now? Because I couldn't do it. Is there someone who would be great in this role? Is there someone who would be awesome as Iron Fist?
What do you say, Adam? I'm going to let Adam say something first because he's going to disagree with anything I say.
That's
true. So I'll let him get it out of the way.
Why is the only name that, because I saw him on a commercial during football today? Sean William Scott. It's not good, but you know.
No, that's definitely not a good.
That's the only thing I like. I just thinking, I'm like, who's kind of a fair-haired, kind of smaller guy? That's the only one that I could think of who could do a little bit of comedy type stuff. But no, he's not right for the role. I'm not. That's just the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, I mean, I have to ask myself, am I more interested in the acting or am I more interested in the martial arts? I'm definitely more interested in the acting. Somebody who can bring a little bit of comedy tinge to an action sort of role. I don't know where you're going to come down on me for this one, but I think maybe Zac Efron would be an interesting Iron Fist.
No way.
Yeah, guy can do comedy.
There's the comedy part, yes, but there's no menace to that guy. You know, there's nothing scary about Zac Efron.
That's why you have to give him a scary mask.
Scary, good
looking.
What
about what? I know it's kind of crossing.
I'm not good at casting though either, so I'll go ahead and offer that up.
I know we're kind of crossing streams here, but what about Nicholas Hoult? The kid who plays Beast in X-Men First Class and anything.
Yeah, I'm not feeling that.
He's a little tall.
He is tall.
I'm not feeling that. Who's somebody who does like some dancing or gymnastics? Like you got to think of somebody
Kevin
like
Bacon.
Yeah,
there you go. It's the kid who played the Thing.
Oh, Jamie Bell.
Yes.
You might be onto something there. I did not like
Jamie
him as Ben
Bell
Grimm.
would be great.
Yeah, I don't like him as Ben Grimm.
That's not bad.
That's really good.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Jamie Bell, everybody.
And it ain't like
Jamie
they're doing
Bell
another
is your
Fantastic
Iron
Four
Fist.
film with him in it, so yeah, he's free.
I could get behind that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a little menace to him. He clearly can do the comedy part too. He's the best part of that movie, Jumper. Yeah, Jumper. He's the best part of that movie.
Yeah, I think he would work because, maybe it's a byproduct of my own age or the kind of movies I watch now, but anybody I can think of is too old now. You know what I mean? So I think Jamie Bell's perfect.
Yeah.
Better than Zac Efron, I guess. Maybe The Rock.
The Rock.
The Rock can play anything, you guys. Anything. He could be Luke Cage and Iron Fist, man. It doesn't matter. Just CGI him up. I don't care. Okay, I will say this.
There would have been a time I might have argued for Channing Tatum or Tatum Channing. What's his name? I get it backwards sometimes.
Channing Tatum.
I'm bad at that.
Indeed. I did not like this season. I'll say that. I've been a little quiet, but I didn't like this season, but I didn't love it, but I didn't actually hate it. I didn't hate
Oh my God,
I didn't hate it as much as you guys did. I feel like they did do some things right, but you're right. Even though with 3 episodes less than what we got last time, it's still so very repetitive. But I'll talk about a couple of the quick things I think certainly his fighting was a lot better this year.
I'll agree with that.
We got to admit the guy hit the gym and got in, and he looks like a fighter now, and that's great. I like the Meacham story is completely throwaway material for sure, but I like those 2 actors so much that like I kind of forgive it a little bit. But you're right, it doesn't. You could knock them out of the story almost completely, and you really wouldn't notice too much of a difference. Davos does not have to go with her for any particular reason, but if she's on screen, I don't mind. Let's talk about because we've kind of skipped over her a little bit. We kind of talked very slightly.
Typhoid Mary.
Yeah. So Alice Eve, who I like in a lot of stuff.
I think I only know her from like Star Trek and this.
Yeah, she's done a couple other little things here and there. Nothing like that's spectacularly huge or anything. But I like her. I thought she was good, but I feel also that they kind of wrote that character badly.
I'm with you 100%. I think they wrote the character badly. I think Alice Eve is poor casting for the character that's in the comic book, but she made the character her own. I think she really did a good job of portraying the 2 personalities. I like it that they tease the third, but once again, what are you holding back for? What do you expect? Like, why not go ahead and give us that third personality? Like, are they really holding back for when they get the Typhoid Mary show? I mean, I don't understand. Like, is it any more expensive? Tell me, Sean, is it any more expensive to have the actress perform a third personality?
Not that I am aware of. However, I do think that they're holding back so that they have more stuff to write later, because these are the characters they have now.
Now,
it's not like Marvel's going to give them more.
I only by the most minimalistic standards would I call myself a professional writer. But when I became a hobbyist writer, one thing I learned from people that would work as mentors or give me like good meaning advice was, if you hold something back for the next book, there won't be a next book. That's
true, man.
You're on stage. You better be singing your best songs, because if you're saving good songs for the second album, nobody's going to be buying that second album. And that's kind of how I feel. It's like, why do they keep holding back on these Netflix shows?
Oh, quick little thing. For those of you that are kind of like lowish budget horror movie fans, Alice Eve's in a good little movie called ATM, about people that get stuck in an ATM machine.
I love the premise.
It's not bad. It's not a fantastic movie, but it's fun for what it is.
But as an actress that I wasn't familiar with, other than, like I said, she played a role in Star Trek that was a very flat role. You know what I mean? She gave a flat performance for a flat role. Yeah. Not her fault. I was happy with the way she portrayed Mary as different than Walker.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I don't know why they didn't at some point have her like Army nickname as Typhoid or something. I mean, why do you not bring in the character names?
I don't understand. They're doing the same thing that movies in the 90s did now, where we're embarrassed by these characters' names.
Yeah, which is weird.
And
because I can understand in the 90s, but why now?
I don't get it.
That's the thing. Is like, especially like, when the first season of Daredevil started off, it was very kind of realistic, very, level. And then come season 2, then they dial it up a little bit. And it seemed like they were more, they were happier to be more of a comic booky type program. And it felt the same with Jessica Jones and Luke Cage as well. But here, it feels like they don't want to step, like they've got their toes in some of the mystical stuff. Therefore, for some weird reason, they don't feel like they can dip their toes in the comic book stuff, which is odd.
I mean, they've got a guy whose fist glows because he punched a dragon in the heart. But they think that nobody's going to buy Mary Walker's altar being called Typhoid. Like, I think it'd be cool if she was just, they did Mary and Walker. Like her altar was Walker and Mary was the timid one. Why not just go ahead and do Mary as the timid one and Typhoid as the altar? And you could come up with all kinds of reasons for her nickname to be Typhoid from her time in Sokovia,
Agreed. Also, you should have a character. Alice Eve is a fine actress, but you should not have her in this role because, again, it's the thing where I do not believe that she can beat up a room full of people. I just don't. You need an actress who can actually do that, performing that role.
Well, you got to take a chance too, though, because I never would have believed Colin Firth could beat up a room full of people either.
Right, but you know what? Yes, I'm just going to leave it with
when he did
you are
it.
Correct, sir.
Sometimes you got to take a chance.
Got to take the chance. I agree.
Oh, take it. So that's a Mamma Mia reference. Also, very good job, Bruce.
Take a chance on Alice Eve. You will believe that Mary's one. Okay, let's go ahead.
Yeah.
They made a little joke, which is weird, when they're talking about Daughters of the Dragon. And I mean, that's exactly what they're doing. When Colleen is talking to Misty Knight about, wow, you've got some talents. We ought to, consider teaming up. And she goes, Nightwing. I like the sound of that. Why, man? That joke is going the wrong way.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, that is just so out of place. And also, they could find some way to make a joke. Yeah, what would they even call us? Daughters of the Dragon, which doesn't make sense. But, somehow they got to make some kind of joke about a dragon. Or do you think, we could tell people we were sisters and they can laugh? Whatever.
Because let's ask you this. How many times have you had a pet where, like, all of a sudden you're just like, well, we can't really come up with a name. This stupid name is, well, that's good enough as any, I suppose. And then you just kind of keep it.
And that's why Adam's dog is named Sock Drawer. But anyway.
I love my little sock drawer.
But yeah, that joke was just, man, it was kind of forced. It's like, okay, yeah, so Misty Knight and Colleen Wing, Nightwing. Yeah, it's even spelled the right way. But that's like the joke DC should be making. You know what I mean? Like, and on a CW show, like they should call, like I could see the Flash making some joke about Spider-Man, but I don't see Misty Knight and Colleen Wing making a joke about Nightwing. Yeah. If anything, they got to make a joke about Batman, not Nightwing.
All right, let's talk about this ending here because
let's get into
it. That's a bone of contention here, I believe.
I don't know that it's a bone of contention, but first off, I don't quite understand what happened. Now, let's just back this up. Davos took the power from Danny, the power of the Iron Fist.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But for some reason, Davos had two fists.
Right.
Did anybody understand why he had two fists instead of one?
I do not understand that at all.
Okay. And then near the end, they decided that Danny was too addicted to the power, so Colleen had to take it. So Colleen took the power from Davos, right?
Yes.
Right? And then Davos went to the hospital or something. We saw Colleen with the power. And I like that plot point. You know, as far as things that there are to like, I like the idea that Colleen Wing could be Iron Fist going forward. I thought that was a cool idea. You throw in the sword and the way the sword glows. That's all a cool idea.
I like the different glows and stuff. Yeah, it's fun.
But then later, you know, it says several months later, and nothing about Colleen surprises me. You know, not only does she still have the white glowing Iron Fist, but her sword glows too. But then we also see that Danny Rand still has Iron Fist power, and now he has Iron Fist power in both hands, and he uses guns now.
Yeah.
And he's kind of doing like Equilibrium, like the Christian Bale Equilibrium.
The only clue we have to that is that he had somebody makes a remark of there's another object in the casket with the body. And it was those guns, and that's the only, and they don't even refer to them. They literally say there's those other two objects we found in the casket.
So I wonder if those are like from the 6 Gun Kid or something. Like, are they really trying to make that Marvel lore? Strangely, the internet cares so little about Iron Fist that I can't even find like the typical episode recaps and stuff you would normally get for a Marvel show.
Don't care.
But yeah, I don't know if maybe that's supposed to be like 6 Gun Kid's guns or something, but I don't understand how Colleen got the power, but now he has two-handed power. But I never understood how Davos had two-handed power to start with, and I wondered if every time it's transferred, does an extra fist get added? Because they went from 1 fist to 2 fists to 3 fists.
It's bizarre, but like even more so, it's just like, so then your hands have the power to power up these guns, and then therefore also the bullets in said gun to then go in. Aren't they going? Isn't he shooting another bullet? Isn't that what happens? Something like that.
Yeah. He shoots 2 bullets that go and intercept 1 bullet
and
keep
smash
that 1
them
bullet
together, and his powers do that somehow.
And you know, one thing about Danny Rand, as bland as the character was, he was at least given a lifelong training in martial arts. So when he's the Iron Fist and he's doing martial arts, that's fine. But to suddenly turn him into a supernatural gunslinger, like out of Wanted, you know, like I don't get it.
I don't either.
James McAvoy would probably be better in this role now that I think about it.
Yeah, James McAvoy would be good.
But it's like they've turned him into the 6 Gun Kid, and I can't find any kind of explanation on the thought process there. Like, no behind the scenes, no commentary, no what are they going for.
I can tell you I don't think that I think that you're on the wrong path, because his hands do light up and the guns light up like it's an Iron Fist thing.
Yeah. But why guns?
I don't know.
Because guns go shooty shoot. Come on, Bruce, put it together, man. And guns are way more exciting than
I think that they completely missed an opportunity with this entire series, because they could have either had Davos turn into, you know, this force of good, and he learns along the way, and then you can get rid of Danny Rand altogether, or, you know,
I mean, he left the Dear John letter that he was going to Asia, and that's the perfect out, man. This is like when Chuck Cunningham went upstairs to the garage and we never saw him again. Don't ask, don't tell, don't pursue. Nobody's going to say, give us back Finn. And then here we've got Colleen calling herself Iron Fist in the show Daughters of the Dragon, or Daughter of the Dragon, or whatever they want to call it. And we might actually have an interesting show. But no, they decide, nope, we got to kind of dress him a little bit like Star-Lord. We got to have him shooting guns like the 6 Gun Kid. Now both hands are glowing. We're not going to explain to anybody, because one thing the Marvel Cinematic Universe is usually pretty good at is explaining how and why people have powers.
Yeah. Yeah. And so was Netflix Universe until recently.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I felt like they did okay in Luke Cage season 2, explaining most of what we needed to know about Bushwhacker. But here, man, this just didn't make any sense. It was weird. Straight up, what the heck did I just watch? And then also, so like, why didn't they give me a season of that? First off, I'm like, this makes no sense. It's really weird. And then second off, I was like, but still probably better than what I just watched.
Yeah, I would rather have something that leaves me shaking my head because I don't know what's going on than what we got this year. I really do.
Okay, so we're going to have Iron Fist going through space. Why not just go ahead and put him in space, fighting aliens with pistols, and just call it Iron Fist and leave people to figure out what the heck is going on? I could almost have gotten into that.
All right, so before we break all this down and give our proper reviews and everything for the entire season of Iron Fist Season 2, we have to go back to that oh-so-lucrative well and ask ourselves, how does this television program relate back to one Sylvester Stallone?
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement. Emmanuel Manzanares is the second unit stunt coordinator for Iron Fist Season 2. He's also a writer, editor, cinematographer, and producer. He prefers people call him Manny, and he's 5'8" and always constantly moving. He's from Chicago and better looking when you see him in person. Manny makes most of his money through stunt work and started in 2007 on a short film called Ruthless. His first big break was working stunts in 2014 on the TV show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And from there, he went on to TV and movies. Marvel movies, X-Men movies, a lot of video game stunt work. Then in 2015, Manny worked with the first person producers will call if they ever want to make a movie about a grizzled, tough Super Mario, Sylvester Stallone. The movie was Creed, and I'm very happy we don't have a second week of talking about Iron Fist because it took me forever to find this connection. We've spoken about Creed many times on this show, and I'm sure it'll come up again, so we won't get into it. But let me ask you this. Creed is beloved. It's considered one of the best sports movies of this decade and gave Stallone some much-needed goodwill after making yet another Expendables movie no one asked for. So why attempt to make a sequel on a spin-off of a movie no one was asking for? It can't just be about money. Stallone's been rich for over 40 years, so it has to be something else. Why? Why write a movie that isn't going to be your masterpiece, that doesn't challenge you to become a better writer, and in fact can only do your legacy and your career harm? Well, I have a theory. I think Stallone is one of those guys that just has to keep going always and forever. I think he writes screenplays no one asked for, not because he likes it or because he keeps trying to get better. I think Stallone keeps writing because he has to. Like a small child that they can't keep their hands off of their bathing suit area, Stallone must keep writing. I would tell you I admire that about him, but people have accused the three of us of the same exact thing, and it would seem self-serving. When you're knocking out a podcast week after week that have a few people listening to it, never getting further than this, Adam scaring away sponsors we might get, me having to duck out for months at a time because of the work, and never going to Dragon Con because, let's face it, I can be stuck up about crap like that. Bruce fired off dad jokes like he gets paid by the dad joke. We're never gaining ground, always in stasis, and still putting out a podcast each week. And it's because we have to, because we're three guys that need to make stuff, and that's what this is. Three guys making something. And there you have it, HMPers. This week's Stallone connection is none other than Manny Manzanares. Now, White Fist and Robot Arm, let's review Season 2 of Iron Fist. By far the most boring and most non-essential Marvel show to come out since the Inhumans.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I know for sure, if given the odds of things, Bruce is going Robot Arm. Am I wrong about that, Bruce?
I am definitely Robot Arm.
I knew
That's
you would
why
be.
I put it in there, buddy.
Okay, so a little more information I found during that Stallone connection.
Okay.
Orson Randall is the name of the bad guys in Tokyo. They're working for Orson Randall. You know, they took a box that belonged to Orson Randall. Mm-hmm. And that's what those guys are asking to get back when they're talking about the artifacts in the box by Orson Randall. Well, Orson Randall was a Iron Fist character who was one of the Iron Fists before Danny Rand got the power of the Iron Fist. And he was created by Ed Brubaker. So it should come as no surprise that he is the Iron Fist that used guns. And he could channel his chi through guns. And in Season 1, you know how you saw like documentary footage of Iron Fist in World War I?
Yeah.
Well, that was Orson Randall.
Oh.
So I guess that Danny got the chi guns from the World War I Orson Randall Iron Fist.
Why am I back on board? I don't know. I shouldn't be.
Yeah, I'm back on board. I like the idea of the chi guns. Like, if you just let Ed Brubaker give me a season of Iron Fist, I probably have liked it. Like
Yeah.
Like, I feel that the problem is this whole season was unnecessary because they had a really good idea. Why didn't they just give me the good idea?
But we talk about
so my
this
rating
we talk about it all the time, though. But I would say, like you just said, we talk about this all the time. But if you just give us like, hey, here's an explanation, we're gonna be cool with it. You just got to tell us.
Or you know what? If you want to give us Iron Fist with guns and Orson Randall's the bad guy, how about you do it this season?
Yeah,
because I'm probably not going to care enough to watch next season if we're not still doing this podcast, you know?
Yeah, that's fair.
But anyway, so having said that, boy, they found a way to make this season better than last season, but make me hate it more because it teased that it could have been really interesting. You know?
Yeah.
Like this whole Orson Randall thing introduced in the final few minutes. Like, I don't like to sit through 10 hours of entertainment to finally think, oh, now there's an interesting idea that should be explored.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think, like, it needs to be a Jason Todd, but it's not as bad as season 1. So I think I'll give it a Stephanie Brown. I never rated season 1, so I kind of have a free pass to do what I want here. It's like saying, you know, the turbulence on that flight wasn't as bad as the turbulence on that other flight, but it was still bad. So it's like, it's bad, just not as bad. You know, I only vomited twice instead of 3 times, and it was shorter. So you get an extra star for being 3 episodes shorter, but it's still Stephanie Brown, I guess.
All right, that's fair enough. Keenan, what do you got?
Well, to paraphrase Doug Stanhope, just because your suck sucks more than my suck doesn't mean my suck doesn't suck.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this sucks. By the way, you know, I wrote this note down, and I have to bring it up because you know how I know that Davos's gang sucks. You know, that gang of kids that he was that was helping him.
Yeah.
You know how I know that they suck? Because it's an Asian gang that also has a 30-year-old white guy in it.
It is a clue. That is a clue.
That is how I know that his gang sucks. This is a Jason Todd. Please stop making stuff like this, Marvel. You are better than this. I expect this out of a bunch of other people, but definitely not you. So for me, it's a Jason Todd.
I'm going just a very high Stephanie Brown on this. I didn't absolutely hate it. I kind of wished I liked it more than I did, but there's just barely enough in there to keep it out of that Jason Todd. Actually, there's more to keep it out of the Tim Drake area and keep it down. But Stephanie Brown. I'm not moving around.
It's
Stephanie
nowhere
Brown.
near Tim Drake, man. Don't even need to explore that.
Or Damien, rather. Excuse me, Damien. Rather.
Yeah, Damien.
I apologize. Okay. My brain just went. So I'm either going like super low Damien, but I'm really gonna push it to just high Stephanie Brown. So, it could be a lot better. You're right. There's way too many opportunities left on the floor, and it feels like, especially after that first season, that they had a lot to live up to and a lot to really kind of go, okay, you screwed the pooch on this first one. What are you going to do this time? And you really had the opportunity to knock it out of the park, learn from all your mistakes, and it just seems that you didn't. So, shame.
I just hope he goes in space in the 3rd season.
It does. Iron Fist in space. I'll take it. So that is it, everybody. What we're doing next week, we haven't talked about that yet. So we'll figure it out, and we'll let you know. In the meantime, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet, sir?
Oh, my work can always be found at chubbywizard.com. You can also find every now and then I do stuff at Heroes and Villains podcast, so you can check that out. Chubby Wizard podcast. I've got books out there, and I've got like one more week before the North American release of The Vigilant, so I'll be talking about that a lot next week. But go to Amazon, look for Bruce Leslie, read some books, give me some money.
Excellent, Mr.
Oh, and my son got cast as Flick in A Christmas Story, the guy who gets his tongue stuck to the bone.
Oh, wow, he's
nice.
He's the best friend.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that.
That's great, man.
Sean, what do you got?
You can reach me at Hero Movie Sean and Dog Eat Pod.
The Film Find's coming back. We recorded some stuff at DragonCon, but the files all turned out to be garbage, so those won't be going anywhere. But we did have a good time over there, and hopefully we'll be starting some stuff up soon again. And, and our Preacher podcast, where our big finale is there and everything that we had at DragonCon. Also a good time over there with those folks. So check all that stuff out, everybody. We'll see you guys next week with whatever we choose. For Bruce Leslie, Sean Keenan, I'm Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.
And trust that day.